What's up, big ballers, shot callers? Big Ken here. Joined by my co-host and best friend Monty Brown. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's up, March Madness, man? I hope you're doing better than I am in this bracket. Mine
Yeah, I'm sure.
sucks right now.
I'm sure there's a lot of busted brackets out there. Uh,
Sheesh.
we got another great show in store for you today. It's our Sweet 16 show, but March Madness 2025. It's been March Madness like every
Mhm.
year. Some things are happening. Some blue bloods dominated the first round. There was a couple
Yeah.
upsets. SEC and Big Ten dominated the first and second rounds. We got so much, to talk about that today. But there was a couple of upsets. A couple of 5-12 upsets. There was two 5-12 upsets and one 6-11 upset in the first round. So some of the upsets did happen, but yeah, the blue bloods definitely dominated. The Big Ten was 8-0 in the first round, and the SEC was 8-6 in the first round. So the Big Ten and SEC had 16 teams out of the 32 teams advance to the
Wow.
second round. And I think it was like the first time in a while that 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds all won first round games by the highest point
Mhm.
differential, I think, like in NCAA March Madness history. So all four top seeds advanced the first round. That hasn't happened in a while. There's been some upsets, and like I said, it was like the highest point differential that they've had. Um, Alabama had a squeak against Robert Morris. That was kind of surprising, but Alabama has made it. They made it by. So some interesting games, man. But we
Yeah,
get
UConn gave Florida a headache.
huh?
Yeah, UConn gave Florida a
Yeah, in the
scare.
second round, that game came down to
Yeah,
the wire. Yeah,
yeah,
there was
yeah.
there
That
there's
was
some other
tough.
really good second round games too that we could talk about.
Mm.
Arkansas number 10 Arkansas upsetting number 2 St. John's. Calipari versus Pitino, two very well known Hall of Famer
Hmm.
coaches. You know, BYU upsets Wisconsin in the second round. Gonzaga gave Houston a game. Houston won 81-76, but that was absolutely a game. And then
Yeah.
a game that me and Monty were talking about before we started the show was Maryland wins in a buzzer beater. Number 4 Maryland barely survives number 12 Colorado State. Colorado State could have been the Cinderella, but they lost 72-71 on a buzzer beater by the freshman Queen. Is it
Yes.
McQueen or Queen?
Queen, Derek Queen.
Derek Queen. I've heard of him, but I always
Yeah.
get his name
Yeah.
confused for some reason. Some people say there was a controversial call or no call of not calling traveling. I personally didn't see it,
Yeah,
but
I
there's
didn't
some
either.
people out there that are talking about how Colorado State got screwed over. But
Wow.
before we get in, go ahead, Monty.
How about these freshmen in this tournament? Queen has one. He's a freshman center. Then
Yeah,
we have Cooper Flag for Duke, man. When's the last time we seen this? It's been a
no
while. Freshman being talked about.
freshman, and that's what we're. That was one of my questions on the last show. We weren't sure if Cooper Flag was going to come back, but he did. He's played in the
Yeah.
first two rounds games. I thought he might come back in the middle of the tournament, but he got back before tip off of the very first game, so I wasn't too sure about his injury. But he's back and he's playing well. Um, Monty, I know before we get into some more of these games, before we dive in a little more closely to some of these games and pick our Sweet Six and talk about our Sweet 16 matchups. You had something you want to talk about with some couple of questions you had about if things were different today, back then than
Yeah.
they are compared to today with some of the NIL and stuff like that, and some things going on. So let's dive into that.
Well, I figured I'd stir the pot a little bit of controversy, see what we think out there. Would love to hear from you, Dwayne, any of you guys out there listening, your opinions on this. It's crazy right now. It's a stat I just saw this today. 53% of the points that's been scored in this tournament so far, the whole tournament from round one to now the Sweet 16, have been scored by transfers. That's a pretty interesting stat.
Yeah.
Well, right now, the top teams that have transfers, there's four of them, the most transfers rather. Kentucky has nine.
Of course, Kentucky. Of course.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, these are people transferring from those mid majors.
Hmm.
And we know why. We'll get to that in a minute. Maryland has eight. Your team, Michigan, has seven.
Yep.
That big center they have came from FAU.
Yeah,
Bolden, I think the Russian center they have.
yeah, he's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bolden, yeah, he's good.
yeah. And Ole Miss has 7, which we noticed this year we haven't seen as many Cinderellas like you mentioned. Is it because of the transfer portal? Is it because of the NFL, NIL? It could be. We have these one blue blood at the mid major who, hey, if he has a chance to go to Kentucky and get that money, I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
So man, what do you think of that?
Uh what I think is I'm not surprised. I can't say I like it, but I can't be hypocrite because my team is Michigan. They got 7 transfers. I think it's okay in some ways. It's just how do I say this? It kind of depends on the situation. Because I'm never against people going to play for a better school and they start off small.
Mm-hmm.
And now they want something bigger because the guy for your Lakers, Dalton Connect, is a good example. He went start off
Yes,
some small like Northern Colorado, then he got somewhere else. Then he
yes,
went to Tennessee. I'm okay with that because they're starting off small. Then they're just trying to get to some better teams because they've worked on their skills, they worked on their game. They can
yeah,
make those teams. So maybe they could have made the teams before, but they may not. They think they may not get playing time. Like so, they went to a lower level to work on their game, so they know they can get playing time at a major D1 school. I'm okay with that. That's what the dream's all about. That's been in existence before these NIL deals. So that side of thing, that side of it, I'm okay with. Larry
yeah,
Johnson played at some kind of junior college in Texas. We know Larry Johnson's from somewhere in
yes,
Texas, our stomping grounds. He's a stud at UNLV, running Rebels with
yeah,
Stacey Augmon and Greg Anthony, and
yeah. They
he
were a
had
powerhouse at the time. Yes,
he had a long NBA career, probably the best, the longest career of all 3 of those guys that were playing on the UNLV running Rebels. I mean, he made multiple All-Star games. I liked Larry Johnson a lot, so like that's
yeah,
the part I'm okay with. Millions of dollars of money. I mean, it's out there, so you can't really fault them for doing it. But that's where a lot of people
no,
don't like college sports, not because they think, like I said before, when me you and Dwayne did this show 2 years ago, when NIL was kind of a new thing, you know, there's always people who like it and don't like it. A lot of old timers. I can't say all old timers that don't, but a majority of them don't like it because they're
yeah,
old school. I can't say all because that's not fair, but I know a big majority of people in that age group don't like it.
mm-hmm.
But the younger guys are okay with it because that's how they grew up. Because it's the younger
Yeah,
generation, like they're growing up in this kind of thing. So and with their cell phone technology and all this other stuff. So um, you can't be mad for someone trying to get my money though. But at the same time, I can see where people don't like it, But
yeah,
like I said before, if it was your kid, your nephew, your niece, your grandkid, your grandson, whatever the case may be, your cousin, your brother, I think your attitude will completely flip 360 or 180, whatever you want to call it, and you won't care about as much anymore because people are talking
yes.
about they're not getting it. Um, so that's my take. I know it's long winded, but that's kind of my take. So what do you think?
Well, I'm speaking as a fan. This could be, and I hope that I'm wrong, the beginning of the end of seeing the Davidsons. Remember Davidsons?
Yep,
Steph Curry.
that's where Steph Curry came from.
Yes, the Butlers, the VCUs, making it that far. With that happening, we might see less and less of this as a
That part's
fan.
bad.
With
That's what people like March Madness. That is
right,
bad for sports. That's probably not
right.
good for March Madness.
And if that's the case, I'm going to miss that. I'm still going to watch, but at the same time, if it was me, shoot, I'd take that opportunity in a heartbeat. If I would, play for a mid major to go to a bigger school, shine at a bigger school, and get paid, why not? I
That's what I'm
can't
saying. It's enticing.
blame them for that. Yeah,
But we still had some upsets this
yeah.
year, and we had several upsets
Not as
last
many as
year.
before is what I'm saying. I mean, but but yeah, and yeah. So we who was it in the Final Four a couple years ago? Florida, one of the Florida teams, Florida
Florida
Atlantic or
International or something, and San
Florida
Diego
International,
State, which is not known for
San Diego State.
basketball.
Yes. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a possibility. Still, the possibility is still there. Um, Another question I have for you all, kind of based on the same thing. Remember you mentioned your Michigan Wolverines
yep.
a couple
I
years,
know it's
well,
coming
about 20
next.
years ago.
Yep, Fab Five, baby. I know it's
Yep,
coming.
Final Four appearances. Well, what happened to them? Those Final Four appearances were taken away because allegedly they were paid. Uh, Calipari, a while back, took UMass, took Memphis to the Final Four. Um, Players were paid. It, allegedly, but we all know good and well what was going on back in the 80s and 90s. It was going on. We know that. Louisville Cardinals was not too long ago won the national championship.
Yeah, with Pitino. Yeah, that's why he got
Uh,
fired or got taken away from there, right? 2013. They
yes,
beat Michigan. Michigan played in that
yes,
national championship game against them.
yeah. And we could do a whole show talking about this. It's happened in football. Reggie
Mhm.
Bush. I
Yep.
think the
Yep.
ex-coach
Heisman Trophy, all that stuff. Yep.
and the ex-coach from Tennessee, Pruitt. I think he's suing because their players were getting paid before he came along. And I think he sued the university for 100 million. I read bits and pieces about that today. So I'm gonna look up on that and see what's going on there. But
Yeah.
my question is, now that it's legal for payment or NIL, transfer portal, monies from boosters, should they get their titles back, get their Final Four accolades back, or should it stay the way it is?
Ooh, you asking me, viewers? What
I'm asking all y'all.
I'm gonna answer viewers, but viewers, you need to leave some comments on both these questions, the previous question and this question, because I'm gonna say what I gotta say, but I'm definitely very curious what other people got to say
Yeah.
besides me and you. Ah, at the time, obviously it was wrong. So they at the current time they deserve to probably get stripped because they broke major NCAA violations. But at the same time, there's some stupid NCAA violations that people don't get like at all. Like,
Yeah.
like there's just some weird ones out there that the NCAA basically has too many rules. Some make perfect sense and they're there for a reason, to
Yeah.
prevent the prevent things and the not to prevent, but to have it organized. They got to have some kind
Yes.
of government on this stuff. People can't be going crazy. They got to have some kind of like law and order. That's the word I'm looking for. Or the
Yes.
um. So at the time it was wrong, but it does kind of suck though that now with the NIL and everyone's doing it, it does kind of suck that it does make you think like can they give these back? Because people have been giving back things before when times have changed. So this
Yes.
maybe it's happened in other sports and even other things in life. Like when things change, they'll reinstate you or something. I know it's obviously I won't say it's personal because I didn't play for Michigan, but for me being a Michigan fan, I like to see the Fab Five get their Hall of Fame. Their two Final Four appearances back, and I think they got stripped of like winning the Big Ten. They got some of their banners stripped. I know that during that time
Yes.
frame. There was a 30 for 30 documentary on this whole thing with Michigan a couple years ago or several
Mm-hmm.
years ago. I've watched it multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it goes right up this alley. All the Fab Five players are talking about it except for Chris Webber. I know I mentioned this on a show I think last year before when we talked about this. When we started this show, and the Fab Five guys are still really close. But I remember in this show, Jalen Rose and some of those guys are saying like, "Yeah, I'm still really good friends with Chris Webber." But at that time, there was some tension between us because if Chris Webber just would have came clean and saying that he did this, they were talking about giving Michigan some of their banners back. But since
Yes.
Chris Webber, because everyone else came clean except for him, I guess that's the way I understood it. Don't quote me, people. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I remember out of the 30 for 30. But Chris Webber did not want to say he did anything wrong. I personally have no problem with Chris Webber, but I know Jalen Rose said it did hurt the relationship. I mean, they're still friends, but it did like
Yes.
hurt their relationship a little bit at that time frame because they were kind of, pissed. I don't say pissed at him, but they're wishing he would admit it.
Yeah.
Uh, but he didn't want to. But I know Chris Webber. I can't say what his thoughts are, but what I believe his thoughts are was he feels he did nothing wrong. He feels he got taken advantage of as a kid when he was a youth by the guy that was offering him all the money and like buying him things to make sure they go to college. That guy's
Right.
son was on the 30 for 30. That guy had passed away because obviously he was an old man back in the 90s or an older gentleman. And he had passed away before the 30 for 30 episode. But, he was like, basically, he was like, if he saw some talent, he was trying to harness it because he wanted to get paid back later on when these guys get rich and go to the NBA. So Chris Webber's like, I did nothing wrong. This guy took advantage of me. I was a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid growing up in Detroit. Like I had nothing, like he's giving me food and he's giving me like nice shoes. I could play basketball and like I was an adult. Like I'm not even 18 years old. So
Mhm.
he feels he did nothing wrong. That's why he doesn't want to admit it. He's like, no, I got taken advantage of as a youth, and I'm not gonna say shit about it. So
Yes.
he's just kind of mad about it. I don't think he doesn't even like the question being asked. I think it just pisses him off. That's just how I
Hmm.
think it. I'm not speaking for Chris Webber, but I think that's how I perceive Chris Webber. Like, don't even ask me that damn question. I think it just
Yes.
rubs him the wrong way. So that's my take. Long winded again. I apologize, but yeah. Anyways, so
Yeah. That's tough. That's tough because it was going on way back when we knew it. They didn't admit to it, but yeah, like you said, certain people were reinstated after a while, and after rules changed, things like that. And I think the NCAA should take maybe a case by case basis, not all of them, but most of them.
yeah,
Just look at the facts, look at the situations, and if it warrants reinstatement, by all means, yeah, do it. I
yeah,
mean, I think NIL and transfer portal is here to stay. It won't. It's not going to change anytime soon. In the back of our minds, to me, Michigan still made that Final Four.
they
Louisville
made it. They
still,
made it. It's just
yeah, yeah. I mean, they
they
still
made it. They played the national championship game 2 times in a row.
right, and yeah, I'm okay with it. Why not? Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Folks, what's your take on this?
Yeah, this
Let
is an
us know.
interesting topic. Like
Talk to
this
us,
is a
man.
hey folks, you don't gotta agree with us. If you do agree with us, that's great. But you can leave whatever comments you want. Like I said, there's a lot of comments on these kind of things because there's different age groups involved. There's different ways of life, like where you grew up at, how you grew up at, like what part of the United States you grew up at. Like, are you middle class, upper class? Were you poor? You
Right.
know, all these things, everything, what makes you, we all have different things that happen to us and it kind of forms opinions in our head of things, cause and effect, whatever you want to call it. Things that I do in my job, problem resolution, you
Yes.
know, so we talk about causes all the time in my new job. This problem happened, but why? So
Hmm.
that kind of thing. Uh, but here's one other thing I got to say about Chris Webber. Yes, as a kid, I think he has nothing to say about that. But at Michigan, he was a young adult, and you were over 18 years old, and I think still things were going on then because he had this guy had relationships with all of them for like 10 years, from
Yes.
like I said. So yes, Chris Webber, as a young kid, I think he got nothing to say about that. But as 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, I mean, yes, he's still our young adult. Like we're all in our terrible twos, so to speak, in our 20s, and we're still figuring out adult life. But technically, you were an adult. I mean,
Yeah.
at that time frame. But I definitely understand him as a kid not wanting to answer at least not during that time frame of his life.
Yes.
Obviously, he's not a kid now, but he doesn't want to answer back to something when he was 10 years old. But as an adult, we all had to answer for it.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
my take on him. But I understand his feelings both ways, I guess you could say. So, but Yeah, let us know your thoughts on that, people. I mean, it's interesting, man. But I just know another reason why I think Chris Webber is bitter because he has the famous timeout when there was no timeouts in their sophomore year. You know, when they were a little more ready and poised to win a championship. The first year they didn't do so great in the championship game against Duke, but North Carolina they played a lot better. And that was a
Yeah,
down to the wire game, and
yeah, it's a good game.
it was a good game. Me and you were watching together before I came in the
Yeah,
Navy, and
yeah,
it's like 6 months before I joined the Navy, and
yeah.
at the time I didn't know I was joining the Navy. It just kind of happened all of a sudden. But anyways, but I remember him calling that damn timeout, and
Yeah.
but I remember watching that was on 30th for 30th also. Everyone there was like two or three guys on the bench telling him to call a timeout,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
so that's where he got confused. But at the same time, in the third for 30, Jalen Rose, all those guys said the coach said, "Hey, there is no more timeout." So yes, he saw the timeout signal, but the coach said there's no more timeout. So yeah, Chris Hubbard just had to remember that in a moment, and unfortunately, he did it, and he got away with traveling before he did it. So it should
Yeah.
have been North Carolina's ball either way. They
Yeah.
missed it
Yeah.
easy.
Refs are going to call
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
not in the championship game. Yeah,
No.
yeah, definitely not. But I know we beat that subject up, but uh talk
Interesting.
about a couple of these
Interesting.
upsets, I guess.
Yeah.
In the first round, we did have two 12 seeds win. We already talked about one, Colorado State. They
Mm.
beat Memphis, Penny Hardaway's team.
Yes.
And then, McNeese State beat Clemson, which I'm more surprised about the Clemson one. I mean, but then again, we talked about McNeese State always kind of
Yeah.
getting there, but
Yeah. We mentioned it could happen, and I didn't pick them. I picked the Colorado State one though. Well, that was. Oh man,
I
look back.
picked the Colorado State one, but I did not pick. Actually, I picked both of them. I got those both right. I'm looking at my bracket,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
original bracket. I got both of those right. Oh my god, I picked both of them. I got lucky on that one, but I didn't turn in my
Mm.
bracket this year for money. I should have.
Mhm.
I'm just taking personal track of my bracket this time, but I picked both of them. Um, and then the number 6 seed, which I said Drake is always dang good.
Yes.
Drake beat
Yes.
who did Drake beat? The 11 seed,
Oh man, that's a. Let me see here. Missouri.
Missouri. Yep.
Missouri beat them by 10. Yeah, and we also, well, most of us saw that coming because yeah,
Yeah, we
Drake.
talked about that in our last show. So I had a
Yeah.
couple of the upsets right because I said
Yeah.
Drake is for real. I knew very little about Mizzou this year. I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, Mizzou is a team that could be beat because I don't know much about them, and yeah, that was kind of the easiest one to pick out of all of them.
Yeah.
So
Drake gave Texas Tech a run until Texas Tech pulled away at the end.
yes,
So
they did.
yeah.
I was watching that game. That was
Uh-huh.
a very good game. They were in it, man.
Yeah.
Texas Tech's big man was just killing them though.
Hmm.
That they had no answer for Texas Tech's inside game. He was pounding them. Yeah, Drake was too
Yes.
small. They were good. Like I said, they gave him a run for their money. Was in the game like a 2 or 3 point game at halftime. It stayed close for a long time. I think the final score was only like a 9 or 10 point win, so it wasn't like they got blown out.
Right.
But yeah, but Texas Tech did pull away a little bit to get it from 3 or 4 points up to like 9, 10, 11 points to have a little bit more of a lead, and that's how it ended. But yeah,
Hmm.
but Texas Tech has a really good big guy. He was this offensive rebounds, putbacks, post ups. They just couldn't stop him, man. They went old school on him, and yeah, he lit him up, man. Um, are you surprised? Let's talk about Calipari versus Pitino in the second round.
Ooh.
I had St. John's going to the Final Four, man, but I did
Yeah.
say on the show like this is their first tournament in a while,
Hmm.
and I wonder if that would hurt them. And it freaking did. Both teams shot horrible. I think both teams shot under 30% for the game, even though it was very high scoring, which is
Yeah.
crazy. It was in the 80s, but
Well, well,
but
St. John's, their shooting's been a problem all year,
yep, but they
and
had good defense. Yep.
yeah, and they just picked the worst time. I think they went like I don't know 2 for I don't know how many, like 20 at the 3 point. It's something like that.
Yeah.
there was a little bit of controversy behind that the coach didn't play their star player, benched him in the last of it, which I don't care how bad he's shooting. If he's your star player, he's a type that could bring you back, and
Yeah,
that's how.
that is interesting. I don't know
Yeah,
why Pitino did that, man.
yeah. He said because he played 30 minutes, but come on, these are 19-year-old kids. They could play all day. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Look what we did in El Paso, played in 100-degree weather for like
Yeah, 100-degree weather, man. Boy, I don't know how we did that, but we did
yeah,
it.
we did it. And these guys are in
Shoot.
better shape than we were back then because
Oh,
they're
way
great young
better.
athletes.
Sheesh. So, yeah, yeah. They just their shooting woes came back to bite them, and
Yeah.
yeah, it hurt them.
Yeah, I did, man. Purdue, so Purdue is one of the four Big Ten teams in the Sweet 16, but this is their sixth Sweet 16 appearance in the last 8 years. So
Hmm.
as a whole, they're doing pretty good, but there was back-to-back years where they had first round upsets, losses. The most popular ones after them being a 1 seed, losing to a 16 seed, only the
Yes.
second time in NCAA history. That was a couple years ago, but then last year they make it all the way to the championship game and lose to UConn. UConn got their back-to-back championships and everything. So but Purdue, man, I don't. They're kind of a wild card. I don't know what to think about them.
Weren't they in the championship last year? They have some remnants of that team there, so
They still
they
got a
know what
couple
it
of
takes to
guys
get
left on
there.
that team, but they got some
Yeah,
guys that left because obviously their big man Zach Edey's in the NBA and he's doing
yeah,
well. But they still have they still have that really good little guard of theirs. I know his name.
yeah,
Dwayne talks about him all the time. They got Lawyer, you know,
yes,
Lawyer's the other guard. Kaufman Wren is the other big man. He played with Zach Edey, but he was more of like a role
yeah,
player with Zach Edey. But he is lighting it up this year. Kaufman Wren is averaging 20 points a game, and in the second round game, he had 20 points and 15 rebounds. I mean,
yeah,
he's had a solid year all year. This Kaufman Wren guy, like I said, he was just kind of like an alternate player last year, but man, he has come out of nowhere, and
yes,
Kaufman Wren is something else, man. And they still got a couple of guys from last year's team that played good minutes, especially that guard of theirs. I know his name. Why can't I think of it? Like Dwayne always
yeah,
talks
yeah.
about him, but Lawyer's the other guard. Like I said, Lawyer's really good too. Um,
Well, another thing that's helping Purdue is where they're seated. Unfortunately, they had UConn matched up with Florida the second round, and whoever did that should be
yeah,
fired immediately. They shouldn't have played Florida in the second round.
no,
That's the team you want going on, to have a chance to move on.
yeah,
So, yeah, having
yeah. Some of
Purdue
the way the
seated
first setup
against the
were
team that they played
questionable.
against, yeah, that's helped them a lot because, like I said, they do have remnants of that championship. Well, the team that made the championship last year, they have players that know what it takes. They could surprise some people going forward.
Yeah. Uh, my boys, Michigan. Uh, I watched that game. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings watching it with my wife, and first half was close. They're down 39-35 at halftime, but I thought like Michigan could have been ahead. I was glad the game was close, but
Mhm.
they missed a lot of layups. They shot like crap from the free throw line in the first half. They're missing free throws left and right. And I knew they were only down by four, but I was telling my wife they should be up by 4 or 5 points. They've blown like two or three like free easy layups. They'll make 99% of the time. You know, driving to the basket, which you're supposed to do, missing easy ones, missing free throws. I was losing my mind. Like, what's wrong, man? And then in the second half, they get off to a bad start and they get down by like 12 points, but they made this crazy run at the end of
Yes.
the game. They outscored Texas A&M 56-40 in the second half. And a lot of those points came in like the last 10 minutes of the second half because the first 10 minutes of the second half, they were down by like 10, 8, 9, 10 points. I think their biggest deficit was like 11, like I said. But they came storming back. And then one of their guys, they had someone step up, a guy named Gale. We're always talking about their two big men,
Yeah.
but they had a wing player that really stepped up. Gale scored 26 points. Man, he was a difference maker in that game in the second, especially in the second half. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. It's good to see Michigan back in it again. I know had a couple of down years the past couple of seasons, just rebuilding, and like we talked about, this transfer portal, this UIL's, is helping.
Yeah,
So
Dusty May's doing a good job.
yeah,
Like I said, I can't be a
transfers.
hypocrite. I'm not crazy about the transfer portal, but it definitely helped Michigan. So
Yeah,
I can't be a hypocrite. But like I said, I like the transfers, the old school transfers, like the old way of doing things.
yeah,
I was saying with Larry Johnson and well, Don Connect probably did get some NIL money because obviously he's a rookie in the Lakers now. But what I'm saying is they came from small time and they were moving their way up through the college
yeah.
ranks. Not, some of these guys are already at big schools. They're already at big D1 schools, but they're trying to get more money at a bigger program D1 school. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's probably where people don't like it as much. And like you're saying,
Yeah.
it might mess up some of the mid majors in the future for making some runs. But some mid majors did advance, and some mid majors are still doing really well. So we'll see the next couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, how well mid majors are doing with the point you mentioned about you know will this mess that up? I hope not, but it could.
No, I hope not.
We touched on it briefly. Did you see the Maryland Colorado State game? We talked about the controversial no call traveling.
No,
I didn't see the game, but I did see the last play. I don't know if it was traveling. I gotta look at it
I
more
didn't see it.
closely, but there's a lot of people talk about that, so we might as well bring it up because that was by far that was a buzzer beater game with the freshman Queen hitting the buzzer beater to win 72-71, and they think some people think he traveled. So, and
Wow.
Colorado could have been the Cinderella, the 12 seed in the Sweet 16. So,
Mhm. Wow. And wow, just like Jordan, a freshman hitting the last second shot, told the coach in the huddle, I want the ball. Called bank too. He banked it off the backboard, and I heard he called it.
oh, he
So
called backboard.
yeah, I heard
So
he
he
yeah,
intentionally shot out the backboard. Yeah,
yeah.
he was
I
doing
heard
that
he
the whole
called it.
time. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
didn't know
I
that.
like that. Yeah, that's one of the great things about March Madness. I mean, you see this, like I talked about, you got Dalton Connect, who arguably one of the better players in the NCAA right now, and and this freshman here, playing for
Mhm.
Maryland. And Maryland's giving Florida a run for their money right now, 34-34 first half. So
We expected that to be a good game.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
and then BYU's down by 11 at halftime, 51-40. So I mean, I mean, Alabama definitely has a nice lead, but BYU isn't completely out of it. But Alabama has a nice lead.
yeah.
See if they hold on. Um, I guess that'll be my question going into the Sweet 16. Like I said earlier in the show, just to recap, 5 SEC teams are in the Sweet 16 and 4 Big
Hmm.
Ten teams are in the Sweet 16. So 9 out of the 16 are from those two conferences. They've been dominating. It's like I said to open up the show.
Yeah,
But
as expected. Yeah, yeah.
um, to Dwayne's point, one of the one of the games tomorrow, 2 SEC teams are facing off. Number 3 Kentucky versus number 2 Tennessee. But other ones are not SEC versus SEC. But that is one thing Dwayne alluded to. Like they could take well, these teams could take each other out if they
Yeah,
advance.
yeah.
And this is one of them. Let me ask you this before we get into our predictions for the remaining games and close the show. Who do you think is the weakest number 1 seed that's left that you think that can get beat either in the Sweet 16 or maybe like yeah, Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8? Who do you think is the weakest number 1 seed that has a possible chance to get upset?
Florida's been having trouble the past. Well, they're having trouble now, but they've had trouble against good competition.
Mm-hmm.
Houston has the easiest path to get to the final. Uh, the weakest to me is Auburn.
Yeah, I'll go there.
Yeah,
And they're playing my boys Michigan, so I'd love to see Michigan upset them tomorrow
yeah,
night. Oh, I
yeah,
would love that.
yeah. I think yeah, well, I think they'll be the first to get knocked out. If well, like I said, Florida's having trouble right now, but I mean, Maryland's no slouch. I mean, losing to them is not a big thing. That's a good team up there playing right now, fourth seed.
Yeah,
So
Maryland hasn't been. I mean, they've made the tournament a lot, but they haven't advanced out. This is the first Sweet 16 I think in a while.
Yeah.
Because Maryland has had some good teams in the past, but they have some early round exits. But this year looks like they
Yes.
finally kind of got over that hump.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't had a deep run in quite some time. I just don't hear anything about Maryland like late in March Madness, not for quite a while. Um, I think they weren't part of the Big Ten. They won a national championship in 2002, but they weren't part of the Big Ten yet. Um,
Yes.
and Tom Izzo's team is the last one to win a Big Ten team to win the championship in 2025 years. It's absolutely nuts. I hope Michigan State or Michigan can do it. But my winner is Michigan State winning the whole thing this year. So we'll see how that lives up. I do think Michigan will get beat at some point. I had actually Michigan and Michigan State playing against each other in the Elite Eight. I got Michigan upsetting Auburn. Some of that's my heart, and some of that is just because I think Auburn. I said it last show. I think Auburn is suspect. They've never made. They don't do much. They've been ranked number one, number two before, and they always get that early. I'm kind of predicting the same thing this year. Okay, who do you think is the strongest number one seed?
Oh, gosh, man. I think I'm going to wash my mouth off with soap after I say this.
Duke.
Duke.
Yeah, you being UNC. That yeah. Oh my God. But yeah,
man.
I'm glad you're being objective though, brother.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. You can't sleep on Duke, man. That's a very good team.
Yeah, and they got Cooper Flag. Like I said last show, if they have Cooper Flag, they can make a deep run, and they got him.
And he's healthy, and man. So yeah, right now they're playing like they're the strongest.
I agree. I think I agree with both of your teams. Usually we always have a look, maybe one of an offset, but I think I've had to pick a second week number one seed. It'll be Houston. They do have the easiest road, the path. I agree, but Houston's been eliminated early before, and everyone says it's because they don't play in a strong conference. It's kind of like Gonzaga, and they get knocked out because they've been number one, number two before. Like last year, they got knocked out early in the Sweet 16, and a couple years ago they did make it to. I think did they make it to the Final Four or the Elite Eight with their coach? I think it was one of the two. It's like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was the Final Four.
I think it was the Final Four because they had all the Phi Slamma Jamma guys there supporting them because they finally made the Final Four and they all went to that game. You know, they were rooting for them and they, you know, and they just win it, you know. But neither did Clyde Drexler, Akeem Olajuwon. They got upset by the famous upset North Carolina 1983 with, you know, Valvano and his we know why he's famous for. Unfortunately, him dying of cancer, having the famous ESPY speech, you know, that they still play every freaking year for that tournament raising money for cancer. So, yeah. I think Houston's a little bit suspect. I know Dwayne really likes him. Dwayne is always talking to Houston. They don't have a talented team, so I'm with you, Dwayne. They are very good, and their defense is really good too, so I can see why people want to get behind them. It's just, the last couple of years, they just seem to get eliminated, but maybe this year's their year where they get to the Final Four, because I do have them get to the Final Four. I kind of said, and that's why I kind of convinced myself, like, I do think Houston will finally get past this hump and they will get to the Final Four, but I have them losing to Duke. So, but we'll see. We'll see, man. Let's do some picks.
All right.
Well, we already know BYU and Alabama is playing. That's easy. Alabama probably will stay up and win this game. So kind of an easy one. 11-point game at halftime. Alabama probably gets to Elite Eight 2 years in a row. If they get to the Final Four 2 years in a row, that'd be crazy for them being a football school. But I think they're definitely on their way to Elite Eight. But I would love to see BYU come back and upset them. That would not hurt my feelings, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Which one were you picking?
I got Alabama. I mean, they're already up by 11.
Yeah. I would have picked them there as well. I have Alabama going as far as even beating Duke next.
I don't have that.
That won't. Yeah, I mean that's what since I already picked that. I know.
Yeah,
so I'm not sticking that pick. Yeah,
well, I told you last show it all depended about Cooper Flag. Like I said a minute ago, if Cooper Flag is hurt, Alabama could definitely beat them. But with Cooper Flag playing, I think Duke has this one. But you never know, man.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, I'm just sticking with my picks. I mean, after I saw what Duke put on Baylor, I'm like, oh man, it's
Yeah,
because
Duke.
I thought Baylor would
Yeah,
give them some
Duke
trouble,
is really
not beat them,
good.
but give them trouble, and they just killed them. So
Yep. Yep. Duke, Arizona. Arizona finally didn't get eliminated early. They got upset last year, 2 versus 15
mhm.
seed Princeton, right? Something like that.
Yes,
Arizona is one of those teams where they either get eliminated in the first round or they make a deep run. They're
usually
like
do.
one or the other, Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah,
But they're in the Sweet 16. They look good. I saw one of their games. They could play, man.
yeah.
But I have
I have
Duke
some stuff.
winning, but Arizona could give these dudes a game, man. It could come down to the last couple minutes of the game.
I'd like to. I do have interest in this game because there's an El Pasoan on Arizona, KJ Lewis on that team.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right. So I'm picking Duke, but I'd like KJ to do well, and I in my heart I'd love to see an upset.
I think we skipped over Florida, Maryland. It is 2 points at halftime, 40-38. I got Florida
Yeah,
surviving,
yeah, I do too. I do too.
but
Yes,
if we forgot to mention that game. But yeah, not I won't be surprised if Maryland wins, like I said though. But I got Florida winning it in the nail biter. I think Maryland will kind of like they won by a buzzer beater. Now they're about to lose
yes,
by heartbreak. I kind of see like that coming around full circle on them.
right.
Um, the last one for today, number 3 Texas Tech versus number 10 Arkansas. Arkansas is the dark horse or
Hmm.
the I guess you could say Cinderella, but dude, they're in the SEC. They're not a mid major team. But Arkansas, but they have Calipari as their coach, but
Yeah.
they're the number 10 seed in the Sweet 16. So pretty got in that one.
Oh man, tough to pick against Arkansas, but I'm gonna have to. I'm going Texas Tech.
I'm going Texas Tech too. Like I think, yeah, I like them. I saw them play against Drake. Man, they could play, and they got a good inside out game. They played some
Hmm.
good defense also. Yeah, they have a talented team, man. I got Texas Tech winning, but not surprised that Calipari, got Arkansas to the Sweet 16. I mean,
Yes, yeah,
I don't like his one and
he
done
does.
thing. That's another thing I say about the NIL. He's kind of like part of that crap. I'm not a
Yeah,
big fan of Calipari, but he is a good coach. There's no doubt about that.
yes,
I have to give respect where respect's due. I'm not crazy about him, but um, he is a good coach. I'm not surprised he's got Arkansas in the Sweet 16.
no doubt.
Um,
Yes.
Tomorrow's games, Ole Miss, which isn't known for basketball at all. Number 6, Ole Miss versus number 2, Michigan State. Like I said, I got Michigan State winning the whole thing, so everyone knows who my pick is. Well, who do you got? So
Yeah, I think Michigan State will win that big.
yeah,
Yeah, good
it could
12
be a
point win there.
blowout. But unless Michigan
Yeah.
State just falls apart. One thing I say about Michigan State though, they get off the slow starts in the first half. They seem
Hmm.
to be a much better second half team than what I've seen so far. Even in the regular season, they have these okay-ish, sluggish first halves, and they explode in the second. Um,
Yes.
this guy makes sure they're still in the game at halftime against Ole Miss, and they'll be okay. If they're up at halftime, they'll definitely be okay. But if they're down,
Yes.
just be down by like a small amount, and they'll be okay. Um, and like Dwayne said, they have Akins. They got um, the freshman sensation, the guy who played in the NBA. His son, that's his son. He played.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
Dwayne mentioned his name, but
Yeah. The name escapes me, but I know who you're talking about. Yes.
yeah. Why do we keep on forgetting Dwayne? That's why we need you on the show today, brother. But no, I know Dwayne's recovering against. I know his name, but yeah, I don't know why. He was a big time dunker. He played at Michigan State, had a
Yeah.
long NBA career. That guy could Richardson.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. Yeah. Um, the SEC matchup: 3 Kentucky versus 2 Tennessee.
Ooh.
I got
Yeah.
Tennessee because I just flat out don't like Kentucky. I'm picking Tennessee just because I don't like Kentucky for no other reason alone than just
No,
that.
I don't have a problem with Kentucky, but no, just because I think Tennessee's better, I'm picking Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. That's
picking
all.
objectively, and usually I do
Yeah.
too, folks. But yeah, I just don't get into Kentucky basketball. They're good, don't get me wrong, but yeah,
Yeah.
they're one and done crap. I get tired of hearing about them. And
Yeah.
as good as they were with one and done, Calipari only got one ring from them with that whole
Yes.
one and done thing. So that's something to think about too. Yes, like I said, I'm not jealous of guys with the talent to be one and done. I have no problem with that. But the issue I have is that not everyone can do that, and people got to remember not everyone's going to play in the NBA, and you got to use all 4 years to build yourself into
Mhm.
a really good college player and be like a Dalton Connect, be like a Larry Johnson. These guys played all 4 years. There's some guys playing all 4 years now, like some of these mid majors pulling off upsets. These guys
Yes.
played all 4 years together. They have team chemistry.
Mhm.
So I'm not against one and dones, but I just don't like it when that's the only thing he was. It seems like that's the only thing Kentucky ever did, and I just don't like it. So that, anyways, beating that horse. Number 5, Michigan. Number 1, Auburn. I got the upset Michigan. I know I could be very wrong.
Yes.
Michigan might get their butts whooped, but I like the way they're playing. Dusty May's doing a good job as their first year head coach. I think Auburn's suspicious, like I said before, so I got Michigan pulling off a big upset.
I'll stick with my pick because I don't have Auburn losing until the Elite Eight. So yeah,
Okay.
I'll just stick because I picked them. I'm gonna stick. I'll go with Auburn.
No, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad that we're not always the same. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Auburn is number 1 seed. This might be their year. Maybe Bruce
Yeah.
Pearl finally gets them over the hump. Um,
Yeah.
this is Michigan's first year with Dusty May. The thing with Michigan though is like obviously you want your team to go as far as they can, but only thing that worries me with Michigan, like I said, I don't want them to lose obviously because they're my team. But the only thing that worries me though is if they had this really good first year with their coach, and they kind of like fizzle after that. Because it happened to Juwan Howard. He was part of the Fab Five. He had a really good first couple of years at Michigan, got them to the Elite Eight, and then they just fell apart the next 2 or 3 years. He ends up getting fired. Uh,
Yes.
so hopefully they don't fall into that trap again with their new coach now. Um, all right, number 1 Houston versus Purdue. I got Houston winning. Like I said, I do have Houston get
Ooh,
to the Final Four this
yeah.
year, but I won't be surprised if Purdue can pull it off. But I'll stick
Yeah.
with Houston.
Purdue's going to give them trouble, but I think Houston with that defense, they'll pull that one out.
Okay. Last question before we close. Out of all these Sweet 16 matchups, which one is the most intriguing game to you?
I like this Tennessee and Kentucky matchup. Two SEC rivals, and it should be a dogfight.
Yeah, I'm with you. Um, Mine is going to be this Duke Arizona game. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, like I said, Arizona's been busters before,
yeah,
but they seem to have a really good team this year. Obviously, they're full of confidence getting this. All
yeah.
the teams are full of confidence. Obviously, make it to the Sweet 16, but this they seem to be a little bit different this year. And obviously, some people could say number 10 Arkansas versus Texas Tech with Calipari. That could be another intriguing
Mm, yeah, that'll be
intriguing
interesting.
game.
Yes.
So that's it, man. Look, like you got anything last minute things to say before we close, brother?
Yeah, yeah. Just what we talked about to start the show. A couple of questions to stir the pot a little bit. Just tell me what you think. Uh, should these teams that lost out for violations get that back now that what they did is legal now?
Mm-hmm.
And just what do you think of this transfer portal? I mean, most of the points scored this tournament have been by transfers. Do
Yeah,
you
that's a
like
great
it? Do
question.
you do you not like it? Tell me what you think. We'd love to hear from you all.
Monty, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Completely agree with you 1,000%. Those were great questions for today's show, so I'm glad you thought of those. I gave you my side of it. Like I said, I'm okay with transferring to an extent, but how many times you transfer though? That's one thing I forgot to add. Like if you transfer like I said, if you're coming from the sticks going to somewhere big, I'm cool with that. I already beat a dead horse on that, but this happens in college football too. Like how many times you can let a guy transfer though? Like I'm okay with once, maybe
Yeah,
twice in a certain situation, but some of these guys are transferring from year to year to year, just trying to collect money, and they're trying. It's kind of turned into the NBA like these 1 year contracts, and you're just going from team to team to team and trying to help a team
yeah,
win, kind of thing. Win a championship. I don't know. That part is kind of bad. That's where I think the transfer portal is bad. How many times can they transfer? You know,
Yeah.
That's the thing I
Yeah, there
got.
should be a limit. I agree.
Because there should be a limit, you know. But I think Dalton Connect did transfer twice. I can't be a hypocrite, but he was transferring to go from like the bigger schools. I mean, yeah, he came from nowhere to somewhere. You know, his final stop was obviously
Yeah.
Tennessee, but you know he started off really small. So, and so did Larry John. Well, Larry Johnson only transferred once from the junior college to the UNLV, but I know, yeah, like I said, it depends on the situation. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, let us know your thoughts on these subjects, folks. Like I said, I know they're kind of controversial, but it's interesting. It's interesting to say the dang least. And like I said, who do you got winning these Sweet 16 games? Who do you guys have as your national champions? Do you think Queen traveled in Arizona,
Yeah.
Colorado State game? I know all the Colorado State fans sure as hell think he did. They feel like
Yeah.
they got robbed. You know, they're pissed off, you know, because Colorado State was a possible Cinderella. So,
Yes.
yeah, let us know. Yeah, let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and please leave comments on the show. And we'll be back.
Yes.
We'll try to get back for Elite Eight or definitely Final Four. We'll definitely be back for the Final Four. We might try to squeeze
Yeah.
in the Elite Eight, but the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight games are back to back, so it might be kind of hard. But me and you could talk to Dwayne, see how we can try to pull that off.
There we go.
All right, man. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you all.